Hey there everyone, and welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. It's an exciting time to be a Tarkov fan right now because we're fully into wipe season with some really interesting stuff on the horizon. The new patch in wipe has been confirmed by the devs, and pre-wipe events starting as this video is being produced, so we know it's quite close. In typical Tarkov tradition, we're still a little bit in the dark when it comes to the exact date and time of the patch and exactly what's being added and changed. But we do have confirmation of quite a few things, and we have a pretty good grasp of when the patch is actually going to drop, though there is a lot of speculation and unconfirmed info as well. In this video, I'm just going to talk about what we know about patch 12.12, when we figure it's going to drop, and what I'm most excited for in this patch, plus some things that I'm hoping we'll see that haven't really been talked about much since they're lower on the hype train. First things first, let's get the patch date out of the way. At this point, most of the community is pretty sure that 12.12 will be released on December 12th, so we'll most likely be getting 12.12 on 12/12, which is kind of creative for a release date if this is actually what ends up happening. Alternatively, there's quite a bit of speculation that the patch date is actually going to be another Christmas wipe, which is somewhat of a tradition at this point. But since pre-wipe events have started already as of making this video, I'm thinking around the 12th is a pretty good guess, and some people have said that the devs confirm this as well. The first pre-wipe event has moved bosses around to other maps and added raiders to woods, though we don't know what's next on the list of events. There's 100% going to be a server wipe with the patch, and the major talking points for this one include the new Lighthouse map, or at least part of it, a new Inertia system that will affect movement, a completely rebalanced Ballistics System, VoIP or proximity voice chat, new weapon malfunctions, new weapons including the long-awaited Scar, and most likely one of the first iterations of technical improvements using the new Unity 2019 engine. First up, we have to talk about the new map, Lighthouse, which we're getting in sort of a beta state apparently, so most of it will be there, but there'll be future additions to the map, which is kind of standard practice in Tarkov at this point. Personally, this is what I'm most excited for, as it's been far too long since we had a new environment to explore, with new spawns, new loot, new bosses, and that fresh, I have no idea where I am feeling. We haven't seen too much in terms of footage of the map, but we do have some screenshots of the map, and it really looks like it's going to be right up my alley, almost like a Shoreline 2.0, which is fitting since geographically it's located just on the other side of the collapsed tunnel from Shoreline. So far, we've mostly seen screenshots of these villas or vacation mansions in the wilderness and some kind of power or water treatment plant, and I really like the design of both of these locations. The houses specifically look quite nice, and I'm guessing these are Terra Group executive properties to tie them into the lore of the Tarkov world. I'm really looking forward to exploring this new area, finding all the hidden locked away loot, and judging by the look of the environment, finding some nice bushes to camp and snipe everyone while they're trying to get their bearings. I believe it has been confirmed there will be at least one boss on this map, but we haven't really seen any screenshots or clips like we did with Tagilla, so it's hard to say if that will be in at launch. Next up on the chopping block, we have everyone's favorite talking point for the past 6 months, the Inertia System, which in theory might finally eliminate my biggest annoyance in Tarkov right now, which is the gotta go fast bunny hop playstyle, AD spam around corners, and the doorway sprint peek. Again, we don't have a lot of confirmed information on how Inertia is going to work, but the general idea is to better replicate the transfer of momentum when moving from a standing position or when changing directions at speed. A lot of other games have inertia in some form or another, and it basically should make it so that players can't wiggle around back and forth quite as fast, and they'll have to be more precise and calculated about their movements. In gameplay terms, this should mean a few things. First, players shouldn't be able to strafe spam on corners as much, which means when someone decides to peek a corner, they'll be a lot more vulnerable for a half second or so as they change directions, so we might see less AD spam to bait shots around corners. It should also mean that when you're eyeballing someone up from 200 meters and they're AD strafing to avoid the headshot, they'll likely have a vulnerable spot right in the middle of the strafe pattern where you can line up a good shot. Most importantly to me, I'm hoping Inertia will be a straight up hard counter to bunny hopping and the technique people developed where you rapidly sprint and jump past door frames while free looking, which basically allows players to abuse the game's netcode and lack of inertia to have risk-free peeks through a door and then line up flick shots. I understand the logic and effectiveness behind both of these strategies, but I also just straight up don't think they belong in Tarkov. It looks stupid, it ruins the immersive aspects of firefights in a lot of cases, and it's basically just a case of abusing unfinished mechanics to gain an advantage that was never supposed to exist. On top of this, I'm really hoping that gear choices will have a significant effect on inertia, so that wearing things like the big couch backpack full of loot, heavy helmets like the Alton, and chunky armor actually come with some kind of downside, instead instead of just being the best choice because they have the highest numbers or the biggest space. If you disagree with me and think that Lightspeed Tarkov is more fun, that's fine, we all have different opinions. But to me, I've been desperate for Tarkov to slow down and get back to its roots for a long time, and I have pretty high hopes for the Inertia system. The next big sweeping change that's coming with the 12.12 patch is the reworked Ballistics System, and judging by the charts that the devs have showed us recently on Twitter, it looks like almost every ammo type in the game was reworked to generally have a more consistent and accurate flight path with less exaggerated bullet drop. This is a great thing for snipers, as long distance shots might be more consistent now, but it also means that certain ammo like 9mm, 45, and 9x39 will now be much more accurate at close range as well, and we won't have that weird bullet jump where the bullet hits way above the reticle. In addition to new bullet arcs, it's also reported that we'll have damage and penetration drop off at long range, which might really change the overall effectiveness of weapons that were designed primarily for close or for long range shooting. For example, right now a 5.56 round is in some ways better than 7.62 for sniping, because the crazy high velocity makes long shots easier to hit, and with no damage drop off, that M995 round is still going to pen and do max damage regardless of the distance. With the new system, that lightweight 5.56 round will lose damage and penetration at longer ranges, where a heavier 7.62 or a Mosin round might not, which mimics the actual real-world purpose of using heavier rounds at long ranges. So in theory, this should create a lot more of a separation between assault rifles like an M4 and DMRs like an SR25, and I'm really excited to dive in and see how everything feels with these big changes. Next up, we can't ignore the confirmed new weapons, and at least some of the new attachments that we've seen screenshots of from the devs as they repeatedly teased us with 12.12. Obviously, the big news is that we're finally getting the SCAR in both 5.56 and 7.62, which is a very long-awaited addition to Tarkov. I'm pretty excited about the SCAR as well, and I'm hoping that we get a half-decent assortment of mods as well, specifically with the ability to build the short CQB version and the longer DMR version of the 7.62 SCAR H. I'm kind of worried that the SCAR will basically just be the MDR 2.0 with no real mods or parts to change out, but we can't say till we have it in our hands, so I'm remaining optimistic. Next up, there's the USP45 pistol, which should be quite fun to try with the new Ballistics system, but at the end of the day, it's just a pistol, so it probably won't shake things up too much. We're also getting at least 2 different suppressor options for the UMP45, which is going to be awesome, and I'm 100% going to make a Modern Warfare 2 loadout with an iron sight suppressed ump and a backup shotgun. Finally, I believe the last 2 confirmed weapons will be a double-barreled shotgun and a revolver shotgun, likely to be seen in the hands of shotgun scavs who absolutely will blow your head off with them. We've seen a few attachments as well, including new AK suppressors, an AK scope, foregrips, pistol grips, a new MK47 suppressor, a new 6x scope, and probably some others that I'm forgetting. And I'm really hyped to dive in and see what new builds we can make with all the new parts in the 12.12 patch. I might be wrong, but I do believe that covers the highlights of what we know so far about the 12.12 patch, and specifically the things that I'm most excited about in regards to big changes to the core game mechanics in Tarkov. I'm fully prepared to struggle with Inertia and relearning Ballistics at first, but honestly, this is kind of the shakeup that we need to rein in the current stale gameplay meta and slow the game down a bit. I'm honestly hoping there's even more changes that they're keeping secret, and I'm really quite hopeful that this patch can bring us back to a more grounded Tarkov that's more about positioning, good timing, and tactical decision making, and less about hopping around at full speed and making sick flicks with the MK47. Since this video is mostly about my perspectives on what's been confirmed so far, I'll likely make a similar video covering the patch notes line by line when we finally get to glimpse that sweet change list that Battlestate's been hiding from us. Until then, thanks for watching the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream, Discord server, and Patreon page down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.